Colin Kaepernick recently decided to take action in order to highlight an extremely important issue. Colin started the Know Your Rights Camp COVID-19 Relief Fund to directly impact the disproportionate effect coronavirus is having on our communities. According to Colin, structural racism makes Blacks and brown people more likely to die from COVID-19. So you guys, the money raised will go toward buying food and face protection, masks and all that good stuff, to distribute in communities. It'll help to pay essential living costs for those who can't afford and provide information to Black and brown communities to keep them in the loop of what's going on with the pandemic. Also, the fund, which I know that, Amanda, you're going to really appreciate this, the fund will also work to get prisoners out of jail and into a safer environment, which I've been seeing on your Instagram lately. You've been concerned about folks that are in prison and keeping them safe. And just, ladies, what do you think about Colin's fund in general?
I think it's great. I think that what he's doing is something that a lot of people should be doing, and a lot of companies are starting to do this. As a matter of fact, Toyota Corporation is actually starting a fund, because you got to remember, these corporations have multicultural areas, and Toyota is actually starting a fund of $1 million that they're going to give to certain organizations for specifically teaching Black and brown communities more about the COVID-19 crisis. So they're going to give this money to like the Salvation Army, United Way. So I think that this is just the start of what you can see, because we have to get the messages out to our Black and brown communities about the effects of COVID-19.
And I'm happy that the doctor who is basically, well, he's been the front running doctor during this pandemic, Dr. Fauci, I hope I'm saying his name right. He talked about this weeks ago, and I'm happy he decided to tell the country and make people aware of this issue and not put it underneath the rug. So I'm happy that this doctor, who is very prominent and well known, said something like this.
Yeah, I feel like, as much as I'm glad that, and I agree with you, Tams, I'm glad that they vocalized this.
Yeah,
I feel like it's also had this frustrating, what seems like an adverse effect, where it's made people who don't align themselves with our communities feel like, oh, well, if it's only affecting them, then why can't we just be let out of quarantine? Like, it just seems like there's this trigger effect that happened when the color of COVID became Black and brown communities, that there's individuals in this country who feel like, well, if I'm not a part of that community, like, let me out. And I just wish there was more of a thought process of looking at us as an American community and the ways in which we can all help each other and protect each other.
Unity, absolutely. We're all in this together.
Yeah, I thought it was incredibly, obviously gracious, because we're in such uncertain times. So it's necessary that we give the people the help that they need. And at the same time, how does one get back up? How does one, you know what I mean? Like it just makes you feel like this cycle that will never end. And now it puts people back in further.
But Jeannie, this is the reason why we have, I call our foot soldiers. We have the Angela Rise, the Amanda, what that girl name right next to me? That one right
I was like, there's another Amanda out here. Where's she at?
We have the killer mites, because they, to be vocal. But then also, what I believe is, I believe in working with brands that want to give back. So there are a lot of corporations that have a lot of money right now. And I was reading an article in the Los Angeles Times that's saying right now philanthropy is at an all-time high. So there's a lot of money that's going to go around. And we have to make sure that the Black and brown communities that are so heavily affected are going to get some of that money to help them rebuild, to help them educate, to help them protect themselves. But the only way that happens is if we're vocal about it. And if we say, hey, that money has to come to us too, and to our communities to help our people. For me, that's what I see as a way of a solution.
Yeah. Lonnie, that's advocacy. We advocate for things that matter to us, right? Like, we advocate for our families, we advocate for our communities. I mean, then we advocate for our sports teams. Like, that's advocacy. You're speaking on behalf of the wellness of things that matter to you. So, I know a lot of people are confused about why is Amanda always talking about Black folks? Because Blackness and the Black community matters to me dearly.
Yeah.
So I'm always advocating because as we can see in this situation, there just simply isn't a lot of care put top of mind for what's going on in our community. So if I'm going to be on a platform talking to millions of people, I'm going to always advocate as much as I can. And I think it's fabulous that like Tam advocates for motherhood. We all Adrian advocates for Latinas. Me and Lonnie advocate for Black folks all the time. Jeannie advocates for Asians. We all advocate for different mental health and different issues and lifestyle, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a time when, Jeannie, when you say like, how does this cycle end? It's really that our communities have to advocate within each other as well. And like our viewership has so many Black and brown people that simply don't realize how important it is for us to advocate for ourselves and our community, and for us to look to not just our community when I say ourselves, but our individual selves. And really working on how do we elevate as our individual selves, because that ends up dispersing, as Tam always says, as love.
But you know what? This is the thing, though, because you remember about a month ago when I got emotional, when I was talking about my eating habits, and it got displayed as I said, all Black women don't know how to eat. And I'm like, that was not it. That was not the message. And sometimes, especially on this show, we're having conversations that nobody else gives a damn about. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest. And sometimes it's embarrassing. Sometimes, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. But the things that we talk about are hitting people in certain ways. I applaud you, ladies, and I want to give an applause because you guys talk about things that affect you, and we're advocates. And sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it might be slightly embarrassing. But we're never saying anything on this show to make people feel bad. We're trying to either start a conversation, educate, inform, and we like to entertain too. But we have to, like you said, Amanda, advocacy is the key, but we have to be the forefront of it. And these corporations, you're going to see, because there are over 22 million people that's unemployed. These corporations are going to have to give back to our communities, and it's up to us to make sure. And you know how you do that? You go and vote. You send a tweet out to your elected officials. If you can send a tweet out to Drake and Beyonce, send a tweet out to your elected official and say, I need help, okay? And you need to fix it. So that's what we have to do. And that's what I see Jeannie for me as part of a solution. And we have to keep working with people that actually care and have the voices to speak out to the communities. That's this show. That's people like the Angela Rise, the Charlemagnes, the Amandas, the Killer Mikes. That's what in my opinion, that's what we have to do. And I'm gonna give myself another hand clap.
Give yourself an applause.
Today. Yeah, that was great.
I'm gonna add to that.
I'd also like you to give yourself another applause for your bun, because this looks
it is
like,
stunning.
I mean, the sculpture art here is
impeccable.